Morning, guys. Morning. Good morning. And we finished a new Jennifer L. Armentrout. Good morning. Yeah, if you watched my weekend vlog of everything I read this weekend for Mother's Day, you will see that I finished finally Fall of Ruin and Wrath. I say finally because I got that book in my Christmas haul. It is currently May 10th. I have actually quite a few books on that shelf back there that are from my Christmas haul that I haven't got to yet because I bought, if you go watch my Christmas haul, I got 18 books. A lot of them were heavy fantasy, and sometimes with my fantasy, I need a break in between fantasy stories because of world building, characters. Maybe I loved something so much I'm not ready to restart another fantasy series, so I need to read thrillers or rom-coms in between just to kind of mentally separate the world building sometimes. It's very rare for me to read epic fantasy novels in completely different worlds back to back. I'll read a whole series back to back of fantasy series, but for me to go from this book and then jump into what else is up there, Hurricane Wars, probably wouldn't happen. I'm probably going to read one or two books in between that book and Hurricane Wars, just because it helps me to keep my world building and my characters separate. But that sounds like a whole lot of excuses for why I've read 70 books this year almost, and this was not one of them because it was outstanding. If you like Jennifer Armentrout, you will like this book. If you like From Blood and Ash and Flesh and Fire, and you know what she's about, which is your deity-esque beings or fae or whatever, vampires sometimes, this guy is kind of... Prince Thorn is, it's real hard to describe. He is almost like a created deity kind of being. And they are called the Hybern, and they govern this realm. It's, you know how fantasy can be. But these Hyberns, they're like all powerful. They govern this realm. They do talk about feeding, but it's more on like passion and arousal, and they did say blood, but that hasn't happened yet, so I don't know if there's some vampire stuff that's going to happen in this series. It's a little difficult to know exactly where she's going with this. I do know that Prince Thorn was created, though, because he talks about being in the ground and created almost like a root from a tree. There's a whole chapter on that. But we meet our main female character, the young woman named Lys, or Callista. And she is working as like a, not quite a courtesan, but that kind of deal, spying for the current lord where she's living. And the lord that she lives with is not a super powerful, he's not like a Hybern. He is one step below. He's got some kind of power, but he's not immortal or any of this kind of thing. He's like a lesser powerful being. She is human. At least in the beginning of the story, we believe her to be. And, you know, she's got a little bit of power, but it's more like a fortune-telling intuition thing. If you liked powerful or powerless, kind of like that kind of intuition thing. Not really like a power like most people would call it, but a power nonetheless. And so the lord that she works for uses her to gain information from people. She touches them. She can sometimes see their fate, their death. She can read their thoughts, things like that. So Lys and Prince Thorn met when she was young. She was in an orphanage and he kind of saved her. But he doesn't really remember that in book one. At least that's what we're getting. But she knows him. And then she ends up having to rescue him from a situation that she overhears is happening. And I love that she rescues him when they first kind of meet again, because he's so much more powerful than her. He is like this all-powerful being who there's like literally stories written about, and she saves him, and she's got like no power. She's this weak woman. So I really liked that, because it kind of put them on a level playing field in this book, whereas there would be some issues with consent almost, I feel like, in this book. Were they not on such a level playing field? Because she had saved him on multiple occasions. He has also saved her on multiple occasions as well. He actually has a nickname for her. I think it's like Nala or something like that. I'm not sure the pronunciation, so don't come for me if you love this book. But it means a bunch of different things in his native language, one of which is brave one. It can also mean stubborn. And then it has a third meaning that we don't know yet, but he's constantly calling her in. And so they meet a few times in random meetings, and then he comes to the castle manor where she works as, I guess it's not really a courtesan, but it kind of is. Like, she's expected to let these men touch her and things like that to gain information for the lord that she works for. And because of this, he comes there and the Lord sends her to his room one night. Well, he doesn't know that she works there. He's not expecting her. And he's actually pretty upset. He's like, what the heck are you doing here? Like, what is your job? Who are you? Why are you here? That kind of thing. And they have, they kind of come to a standstill on some things until he has dinner with the Lord one night, and they're talking about what he's doing there. The lord that she works for is very nervous about why he's even there. This very powerful Hieron who has the ear of the king, and why are you even here in my presence? And he says, well, for the length of my stay, I want her like with me all times. I want her. Talking about Lys. And the Lord is like, what do you mean the length of your stay? And he's like, yeah, I'm here for a while, dude. Which upsets the Lord that she works for even more. But she has a huge fit about kind of being treated like an object that's not a real person. It's a really, really good book. There's tons of banter. There's romance, obviously. The spice is probably only like 2 chili peppers for me. Maybe 2 chili peppers out of 5 for this first book. I don't know if there's going to be more spice, but in this first book, it's not super long. It's for a fantasy novel, fairly short, if you ask me. And so the actual time together was not a whole lot. There is spice, don't get me wrong, but they don't get a whole lot of it because they spend a lot of time apart. Like, before the whole she belongs with me, I want her with me, there's the build up and the back and forth banter and the anticipation. And then he, like, literally the day after they come to this conclusion and resolution on what they're going to do about him wanting her with him all the time, he leaves to go off to find some troops for this upcoming, the reason he's at this manor. And she gets snatched up. So they don't have a whole lot of time, like, together. It does leave off on a bit of a cliffhanger. So very excited for book 2 in this. I believe it's called the Awakening series. I believe that's what she's calling it. I saw that on, it doesn't say anywhere on here what the series is called, but I saw it on my Goodreads when I marked it as reading and read. It said book 1 in the Awakening series. So that's what that one's going to be called. I love a Jennifer L. Armentrout, especially a Jennifer L. Armentrout book 1. Now, her latter books and series, sometimes I do have issues with. It gets a little repetitive, gets a little boring, a little too much world building and lore building for me. And I'm like, okay, this is just becoming like reading a textbook. But her book 1s in any of her series, top tier, 5 stars, always from me. Now by book 3 or 4, ask me if I feel the same way, because for Flesh and Blood, I didn't. I read the first 3. I loved the first 2. By 3, I was starting to get a little bit bogged down. By 4, I DNF'd it, I'm pretty sure. So, that's just kind of how I feel about her series. But book 1 and book 2, I'm always going to gobble up from her. I love them, because we're setting the stage in the relationship, and her banter and her just aspects of romanticy she does extremely well. So love it. Ate it up, read it in a day and a half. Fantastic. What are we reading next? So I'm reading, well, I did just finish Shari LaPena's The Unwanted Guest. I don't know if you're going to get a review for it or not. I'll know by the time this video goes up. I'll know. And then I keep seeing amazing things about Abby Jimenez's newest one that I just purchased at Target. If you go to my Target book haul, you'll see it. It is a summer romance, and I kind of was trying to save it for my cruise, but I have heard it is freaking outstanding. And now I'm getting concerned about being on the cruise and being very distracted and trying to read it. And I don't want me to not fully appreciate this book because I'm on a cruise distracted. So I think that I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to read it after I finish this book from the library by Shari LaPena. And yeah, I'll have a full review on the newest Abby Jimenez book. I love you guys so much. Thanks for always liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, all of those things. They help me out so freaking much. And yeah, happy Wednesday. I don't know if I said that at the beginning of this video, but happy Wednesday if I didn't. Parsival back there, and I wish you a happy week, happy hump day, and I love you so much. I'll see you on Saturday with a